Captain Emily Walker stood at the bridge of the U.S. Nighthawk, staring at the strange signal pulsing across her command screen. In her 15 years of deep space exploration, she had never seen anything like it. The message repeated in regular intervals, using frequencies that shouldn't exist in nature. "Dr. Reynolds," she called out to her ship's xenorchaeologist, "what do you make of this?" Thomas Reynolds pushed his glasses up his nose, his fingers dancing across the holographic display. "It's artificial, Captain. But it's old. Very old." He paused, frowning at the data streaming past. "Based on the decay pattern, I'd say these beacons are at least 50,000 years old." The Nighthawk had been mapping the outer edges of the Proxima Centauri system when they first picked up the signal. What started as a routine survey mission had quickly turned into something else entirely. Multiple contacts. Lieutenant James Cooper's voice cut through the quiet bridge. "Captain, we're picking up similar signals from everywhere. They're lighting up across the sector like Christmas trees." Walker's stomach tightened. One ancient beacon was a curiosity. Hundreds activating simultaneously was a warning. The ship's AI displayed a tactical map, showing red dots where each signal originated. They formed a pattern, like a net closing in on their location. As the crew watched, several dots winked out. "Sir," Cooper's voice cracked, "we're receiving distress calls. Lots of them. The Arcturians, the Rigelians, they're all broadcasting on emergency channels." Dr. Reynolds' face went pale as he decoded the first message. "Captain, you need to see this." Walker moved to his station, reading the translated text. Her blood ran cold. "They come from between the stars. They hunger. They consume. Run. Hide. The Void Hunters return." "Ma'am," Cooper interrupted again. "United Earth Defense Council is calling an emergency session. We're being ordered back to Earth at maximum speed." Before Walker could respond, a new signal cut through their communications. Unlike the ancient beacons, this one was live, desperate, and coming from a ship dropping out of faster-than-light travel barely 1,000 kilometers from their position. The vessel was unlike anything in Earth's database. Its organic curves and crystalline structure marked it as belonging to one of the elder races, species so advanced they'd rarely bothered to contact Earth. Now one of their ships was here, its hull scorched with patterns that defied physics, trailing what looked like pieces of shadow into normal space. "They're hailing us," Cooper reported. Walker straightened her uniform. On screen, the alien that appeared looked like it had aged 1,000 years in a day. Its luminescent skin had dulled, and its multiple eyes darted around in terror. "You must warn your people," it spoke in broken English. "The barriers are broken. The Void Hunters feed again. We thought our technology could save us. Our weapons are useless. Our shields meaningless. They consume everything." "Where are your people?" Walker asked. "We can help evacuate." "Gone. All gone. Our entire sector. Gone." The alien leaned closer to its camera. "But you humans, you might have a chance. Your minds are different. Primitive, but resistant." The ancient ones spoke off. The transmission cut off as something that looked like living darkness passed between the ships. When it cleared, the alien vessel was gone. Not destroyed, simply gone, as if it had never existed. Only a faint echo remained on their sensors, something that looked like a scream frozen in space. "Get us back to Earth," Walker ordered, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "Maximum speed. And download everything we can from those beacons. I have a feeling we're going to need it." As the Nighthawk turned toward home, more distress signals filled the void. The galaxy was waking up to a nightmare, and somehow humanity had to face it. But in the darkness of her ready room, Captain Walker allowed herself a small smile. If these Void Hunters thought humans would run and hide like the others, they were in for one hell of a surprise. Lieutenant James Cooper watched in horror as New Eden Colony vanished from his patrol ship's sensors. One moment, the settlement of 50,000 souls buzzed with life. The next, nothing but darkness remained. He hadn't believed the reports at first. Who could? Stories of shadows that ate light, of beings that unmade reality itself. But now he had seen it with his own eyes. Through the viewport, he watched as something vast and dark moved across the stars, blotting them out one by one. His ship's systems went haywire, alarms blaring as reality itself seemed to bend. "This is Lieutenant Cooper to any Earth forces," he broadcast. "They're here. The Void Hunters are real, and they're nothing like we imagined." Back on Earth, Dr. Margaret Hayes stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her hand steady as she presented her findings. "The Void Hunters ignored our defensive systems because they're not just creatures. They're living gaps in reality. But there's something they didn't count on. Us." She pulled up brain scan comparisons. Every advanced race they've encountered has evolved complex neural patterns, sophisticated minds that the Void Hunters easily overwhelm and consume. But humans. She highlighted a section of the human brain scan. "We're different, messy, unpredictable. Our consciousness works in ways they can't easily process." "Are you saying our greatest weapon is that we're primitive?" Admiral Harrison asked, leaning forward. "I'm saying we're unique. When the Void Hunters try to consume a human mind, it's like trying to eat soup with a fork. We're not advanced enough to be easily digested." Commander Robert Blake stood up. "Then let's give them indigestion." He activated a holographic display showing weapon schematics. "Traditional energy weapons don't work against them. But we found something interesting. Old-fashioned projectile weapons, especially when enhanced with certain frequencies, can hurt them." "Bullets," someone scoffed. "Against beings that eat stars." "Precisely," Blake grinned. "They evolved to counter energy weapons and shields. They never expected to face anything as barbaric as a railgun. We're forming special response units now." In orbit, the U.S. Nighthawk's crew watched as the first Void Hunter response unit assembled. Ships that looked primitive by alien standards, bristling with projectile weapons and sonic disruptors. Captain Walker had seen the test footage. The look of surprise, if you could call it that, when a being of pure void took a face full of magnetically accelerated tungsten rounds. Dr. Hayes' voice came over the comm. "Remember, your minds are your strongest shield. The Void Hunters can't easily process human consciousness. When they try to reach into your thoughts, push back. Think loud, think messy, think human." The sensors lit up with new contacts. The Void Hunters had arrived, expecting easy prey like they'd found everywhere else. Instead, they found humanity's fleet waiting for them. "All ships, weapons free," Walker ordered. "Show these cosmic horrors why you don't mess with the crazy monkeys from Earth." The battle that followed would be remembered as humanity's awakening. When the galaxy's most advanced civilizations ran and hid, humanity stood its ground. They'd fought with bullets and bombs, with sound and fury, with the raw, chaotic strength of minds too stubborn to submit to the darkness. And for the first time in their ancient existence, the Void Hunters learned what it meant to feel fear. Admiral David Harrison stood before the largest fleet Earth had ever assembled. Ships of every class and design filled the viewport of his command center, their hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. But what made this sight truly remarkable were the alien vessels scattered among them, refugees and warriors who had chosen to stand with humanity. "The Void Hunters expected us to run," he addressed the combined fleet. "Instead, we fight. Major Phillips, show them what we've learned." Major Jennifer Phillips stepped forward, her combat footage playing on screens across the fleet. It showed human soldiers charging directly at Void Hunters, their primitive weapons blazing. Where advanced energy weapons had failed, shotguns loaded with specially treated shells tore holes in reality itself. "They can't predict us because we don't think like other species," Phillips explained. "While they try to analyze our tactics, we're already changing them. We're too random, too adaptable." In his laboratory aboard the station, Dr. Michael Anderson worked with alien engineers, combining their advanced technology with human ingenuity. "Look at this," he said, holding up what looked like an old revolver modified with crystalline components. "We took their fancy energy converters and used them to supercharge bullets. Sometimes the best solution is the simplest one." The station shook as a Void Hunter attack materialized nearby. But this time, they were ready. Defense turrets loaded with Anderson's hybrid ammunition opened fire. The dark entity screamed in a frequency that shattered windows, but it couldn't advance. "This is why they fear us," Harrison told the alien ambassadors watching from the command center. "Not because we're stronger or smarter, but because we're unpredictable. We don't follow the logical paths they expect. We improvise. We adapt. We survive." The Alpha Centauri battle proved his point. When a massive Void Hunter force emerged from deep space, they found not cowering prey, but a trap. Human ships charged straight into their formation, firing weapons that shouldn't work but did. Alien allies, emboldened by human courage, followed suit. For the first time in recorded history, the Void Hunters retreated. Not from superior technology or overwhelming force, but from the sheer chaotic determination of a species too stubborn to accept defeat. "Send the message to every corner of the galaxy," Harrison ordered as the battle ended. "Earth stands against the dark. Any species willing to fight is welcome here. We might be primitive by their standards, but sometimes the old ways work best." In the aftermath, more alien ships arrived daily. Earth became a beacon of resistance, a rally point for those who chose to stand and fight. The planet that had once been seen as a backwater world of primitive beings was now the galaxy's best hope for survival. As Harrison watched refugee ships land at the orbital docks, he smiled. Humanity had found its place in the universe, not as the most advanced species, but as the one crazy enough to punch darkness in the face and teach others to do the same. Colonel William Parker never imagined he'd be leading the first major offensive into Void Hunter territory. Yet here he stood on the bridge of the U.S. Valiant, watching as his fleet prepared to jump into the unknown. Dr. Lauren Mitchell's discovery had changed everything. "The Void Hunters aren't just afraid of our weapons," she had explained during the mission briefing. "They're terrified of our minds. Human consciousness acts like a poison to them. The more we resist, the more it hurts them." The fleet emerged from hyperspace into darkness. Not the natural darkness of space, but something deeper, a region where the Void Hunters had consumed everything, even light itself. "Launch Operation Lighthouse," Parker ordered. Hundreds of ships activated their new hybrid drives, designed by human and alien engineers working together. The devices broadcast human brainwave patterns amplified 1,000-fold. In the darkness, something screamed. Lieutenant Amanda Foster led the first wave of fighters. Her squadron carried what the troops called nightmare bombs, devices that projected concentrated human emotions into Void Hunter space. Years ago, the idea of weaponizing feelings would have seemed ridiculous. Now it was their best weapon. "They're coming," Foster reported, watching dark shapes emerge from the void. "Lots of them." "Remember your training," Parker responded. "Don't think like soldiers. Think like humans. Be unpredictable. Be chaotic. Be everything they fear." The battle that followed defied conventional physics. Void Hunters struck with tentacles of unreality, trying to unmake human ships. But where they reached for orderly, predictable minds to consume, they found chaos. Every human crew broadcast their thoughts, their hopes, their fears, their determination. Foster's squadron hit the largest concentration of enemies. Her fighters spun and weaved in patterns no computer would suggest, firing weapons that combined human violence with alien science. The Void Hunters couldn't predict their movements because even the pilots didn't know what they would do next. "Forward operating base lighthouse is ready," Mitchell reported from the fleet's command center. The station, built from 17 different species technologies and powered by human determination, created a bubble of safe space in the darkness. "All ships push forward," Parker ordered. "Show them that we're not just defending anymore. The hunt has become the hunted." The Void Hunters retreated, but not before learning a new lesson about humanity. It wasn't enough for humans to resist. They had to fight back, had to pursue, had to push into the very darkness that had terrorized the galaxy. As Foster landed her fighter in Lighthouse Station, she saw alien crews watching the humans with new respect. They had expected the primitive species to help them hide. Instead, humans were teaching them how to fight back. "The counterattack is just beginning," Parker told his crews that night. "We've proven that the darkness can be pushed back. Now we're going to teach it to fear the light." In the space around Lighthouse Station, the void seemed a little less dark, a little less absolute. Humanity had planted its flag in the heart of enemy territory, and they weren't planning to leave. Professor Daniel Wright stared at the ancient data crystals, his hands trembling. After months of studying artifacts from abandoned alien worlds, he had found something impossible. "Captain Rachel Thompson," he called to the expedition leader, "you need to see this immediately." The U.S. explorer had been mapping Void Hunter territory, recovering artifacts from civilizations they'd destroyed. But this discovery changed everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the universe. "These are human DNA sequences," Wright explained, pointing to the holographic displays. "Not similar to humans. Actual human genetic code, preserved in these ancient research facilities. They're at least 100,000 years old." Thompson frowned at the displays. "That's impossible. Humanity evolved on Earth." "No," Wright said quietly. "We were engineered, created. These facilities belong to the precursors, the species that first fought the Void Hunters. They didn't just study human DNA. They designed it." Dr. Brian Miller joined them, carrying his latest prototype. "That explains why the consciousness amplifier works so well. Our brains weren't accidents. They were weapons, designed to fight the very enemy we face now." The evidence was undeniable. In chamber after chamber, they found more proof. The precursors had seeded Earth with engineered proto-humans, designed to evolve into beings whose minds could resist and harm the Void Hunters. "Look at these notes," Wright continued. "They knew the Void Hunters would return someday. They couldn't beat them with technology, so they created a species that could fight them with chaos, with emotion, with sheer stubborn determination." Thompson activated the ship's comm. "Get me Admiral Harrison. He needs to know what we found." In his lab aboard Lighthouse Station, Miller worked with renewed purpose. His consciousness amplifier, already effective against the Void Hunters, could be modified based on the precursor designs. "We're not just random primitives who got lucky," he told his team. "We're purpose-built weapons against the darkness. Everything that makes us human, our emotions, our unpredictability, our ability to think in ways that defy logic, it was all designed to fight this enemy." When the news spread through the human fleet, it didn't demoralize them as some feared. Instead, it energized them. Humanity had been created for this fight, had evolved specifically to stand against the darkness when no one else could. "Send word to every human ship and colony," Thompson ordered. "Tell them what we found. Tell them why we're different. Tell them why we can win." In the darkness beyond Lighthouse Station, the Void Hunters sensed the change in their human enemies. The creatures that had merely been annoying were now becoming truly dangerous. The weapons designed eons ago were finally awakening to their purpose. And in the ancient halls of the abandoned research facility, Professor Wright found one last message from the precursors. "To our children of Earth, when you find this, you will be ready. The galaxy needs guardians. That is why we made you. That is what you are meant to be." General Mark Stevens watched as the combined fleet approached the Void Hunters' nexus. Thousands of ships, human and alien alike, all following humanity into the heart of darkness itself. "Dr. Elizabeth Carter's consciousness projection is ready," his aide reported. "She insists on being the test subject herself." In the laboratory deep within the flagship, Carter prepared for the most dangerous experiment in human history. The device would project her consciousness directly into Void Hunter space, attacking them with the very thing they feared most: human thought. "The calculations are clear," she told the medical team. A single human mind won't be enough. But if I can create a breach, the fleet's amplifiers can follow through. Lieutenant Peter Marshall commanded the defense of Gateway Station, their last fallback position. The station's corridors were filled with refugee families from a dozen species, all trusting in humanity's protection. Multiple contacts, his sensors officer shouted. They're trying to flank us. The Void Hunters had learned from their defeats. They attacked in patterns now, trying to adapt to human tactics. But humanity had one last card to play. In her chamber, Carter activated the projection device. Her consciousness expanded beyond her body, reaching into the void. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, but she pushed through. I see them, she gasped through gritted teeth. They're beautiful in their horror, and they're afraid of us. So afraid. The Void Hunters struck back. Gateway Station shuddered under their assault. Marshall watched as his defensive lines buckled. Hold the line, he ordered. Every minute we give Dr. Carter is another chance for victory. In void space, Carter's consciousness met the ancient enemy face to face. They were vast, eternal, incomprehensible, and terrified of the tiny beings who dared to fight back. You fear us because you can't understand us, she projected into their thoughts. Let me show you why. She opened her mind fully, flooding their consciousness with everything that made humanity unique. Love, hate, courage, fear, determination, sacrifice, emotions the Void Hunters couldn't process. Gateway Station's outer rings began to collapse. Marshall ordered the evacuation of civilian sections, but remained at his post. As long as we stand, Earth has a chance. The station's crew cheered as Marshall's last transmission reached the fleet. For Earth, for humanity, for all life. In her chamber, Carter screamed as her consciousness became a weapon. The device amplified her thoughts a millionfold, creating a cascade effect through the Void Hunters network. General, she managed to transmit, fire everything into the breach. Everything. Stevens gave the order. Every ship, every weapon, every amplifier focused on the point where Carter's sacrifice had wounded the enemy. The darkness cracked, and for the first time in eons, the Void Hunters knew what it meant to break. Gateway Station fell, but its sacrifice had bought them their chance. As consciousness and weapons fire poured into the breach, the Void Hunters' nexus began to collapse. Carter's last words echoed through the fleet. We were made for this. Now finish it. Admiral Emily Walker stood where it all began, on the bridge of the U.S. Nighthawk, but now she commanded the largest fleet ever assembled in known space. The sacrifice of Gateway Station and Dr. Carter had shown them the way. Now it was time to end this. All ships, prepare for final push, she ordered. Dr. Reynolds, is the sealing device ready? Thomas Reynolds, older now and bearing scars from countless battles, nodded. The weapon will work. It's powered by the combined consciousness of every human volunteer in the fleet. Once activated, it will seal the Void Hunters in their own dimension forever. The fleet moved forward, human ships in the lead, their alien allies following close behind. Where once there had been fear of the darkness, now there was only determination. The Void Hunters emerged to meet them, but they were different now. After Dr. Carter's attack, they could no longer ignore human consciousness. Each human thought caused them pain. Each human emotion made them recoil. All ships, broadcast on all frequencies, Walker commanded. Let them feel exactly what we are. The combined consciousness of 50,000 human crews flooded space. Hope, courage, determination, and even fear. Emotions the Void Hunters couldn't comprehend became weapons more powerful than any gun. Reynolds activated the sealing device. Energy collected from 1 million human minds surged through the fleet's network. The void itself began to tear, not in destruction, but in separation. They're being pulled back, Reynolds reported. Back to their own dimension. The seal is forming. The Void Hunters fought desperately, but each attack was met with human chaos, human emotion, human determination. The very weapons the precursors had built into human DNA generations ago were finally serving their purpose. As the last Void Hunter was dragged through the dimensional rift, Walker gave the final order. All ships, full power to the seal. Let's close this door forever. The sealing device pulsed one final time. Reality itself shuddered, then snapped back into place. Where there had been darkness, stars now shone again. In the days that followed, the galaxy changed. The species that had once looked down on humanity as primitive now saw them differently. They were the guardians, the protectors, the ones who had charged into darkness when everyone else ran. The Terran Protectorate was formed, with Earth at its center. Not because humans were the most advanced or wisest species, but because they had proven themselves the bravest. We were made for this, Walker told the assembly of alien representatives. Created to be guardians, evolved to be protectors. And we will never stop defending this galaxy and all the life within it. As she spoke, ships from 100 species docked at Earth's stations. Some came to learn, others to trade, but all came to stand beside the species that had taught the galaxy how to fight back against the dark. The universe would know terror again, but it would never again face it alone. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as conquerors or as servants, but as guardians. And in the light of a new dawn, that was exactly what they were meant to be.